There we go. Okay. We are on Beis, Amud Beis. Tanan, around 10, 12 lines up. We're in the middle of heavy duty Hilchah Shmitta, which is in Yana de Yomi. Yeah, so you have it? About 10 lines up on the bottom? Maybe 12 lines up? Yeah, so Tanan, Mashkin Beis Hashlachin, B'mayir B'shviyas. Right, is that that's where we left off? Yeah. So Tanan, so Mashkin Beis Hashlachin, B'mayir B'shviyas. You're allowed to, during Chol HaMoed and on shmitta, so a field that needs to be manually irrigated, so you're allowed to irrigate it, right? Because it's gonna get destroyed, which we said already. If things get destroyed, hold on a second. Things get destroyed, then you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to do malach. What do you say? Somebody said something. Okay, so Tanan, Mashke Beis Hashem b'mayid b'shvis. That's a bishlam b'mayid b'shum tirchahu. So we know Chol HaMoed. We know since it's a rabbanan or it's a daraisa, but the Chachamim allowed you to do tircha. Chol HaMoed allowed you to do tircha in order to save the field, that it shouldn't get lost. The Makim say the shar rabbanan, and when something is a loss, the rabbanan allowed things on Chol HaMoed. Halashviyas. But shmitta, whether you say that plowing without giving watering things is planting, or that the mandover that says that watering is considered plowing, is plowing and planting and shviyas allowed, right? So now we're going to get into a whole blot almost of shmitta. So again, the kasha is on Chol HaMoed. We understand the Chachamim have the koyach to be matter things for if it's going to be for a loss. But where do we see that by shmita? Shmita l'chayra, plowing and planting is assur and shmita. So Rabaya b'shviyas b'zman hazeh. It's talking about shmita b'zman hazeh v'Rebbe, and it's going according to Rebbe. The Tani Rebbe, Amen. Zeh v'zeh dvar shmita shmait. It says shamai, right? This is the word shmitta, right? And shamai means to let it slip away, give it a break. The shtei shmittas akos medaber. The passuk is talking about two different shmittas. Achas shmittas karka, achas shmittas ksafim. One is talking about letting the land, the karka, sit without any work, and one is that anybody who owes money at by shmitta, the loans are null and void. So bismanchat mishamed karka mishamed ksafim. When you have to not work the land, so then you don't. You also don't have to pay back the loans. And when you don't use the land, when you're not allowed to use, meaning when you're allowed to use the land, right? Then you don't have to pay back loans either, right? So whatever you see from this, you see that there is a time that the shmita does not necessarily apply. So when does shmita not apply? Again, from the Gemara's lashon, it's saying that when we're going to write prusbals at the end of it's a Machlokes whether it should be before shmita or after shmita. With mitzvah we pass, you do a prusbal after shmita. So this Arab rosh hashana, everybody's going to be writing prusbals. That's because you want to be able to have to pay back, to get paid back from the loans. Right, so the Gemara is saying here that when there's shmita and karka, then you have the loans are null and void. But it's mashma that there is a time when there's no shmita's karka. When is that? So must be it's b'zman hazeh. Must be b'zman hazeh. There's no shmita's karka, so therefore there's no shmita b'zman hazeh. That's according to Rebbe. So Rabbi Amar, yeah. So that's why you're allowed to plant. We'll have to see from the Gemara Vayta. Rabba Amar afilu tema rabbanon. You could even say it's the rabbanon. Avos assur rachmana. The Torah only assur avos, and told us on Amud Aleph now. Told us lo assur rachmana. Told us that the Torah did not assur. Yosef uv'shana hashviyas Shabbos Shabboson yiyeh la'aretz. Right, on the 7th year it says that should be Shabbos in the land. Sadcha lo sizra. Don't we really need the whole passuk here because the Gemara doesn't say the passuk. Anyway, so for those that have the passuk on the side of the Gemara, Vashana Shvi is Shabbos and Yelaretz, right? In the 7th year, it's going to be Shabbos in the land. Shabbos Lashem, Sadcha loy Sizra, Karmacha loy Sizma. Don't plant your field, and don't also don't do the same to your kerem. Asviach etzircha loy sikta, ves invein zirecha loy sitza. Shna Shabbosani Yelaretz. So basically, there's 4 isurim that the passuk says. Don't plant your field, and then in your kerem, don't plant, and the sviach ketzircha loy sikta and invein zirecha loy sitza. Basically, why does the Torah say 4 things? Right, 2 are the same, meaning 2 are about fields, 2 are about what do you call it by grapes?
Vineyards.
Thank you. Right. So 2 about fields and 2 about vineyards. Why do you need a special passuk about vineyards? What is that gonna? What do you need that for?
So Yehud.
No, what's a female? So what?
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says there's no shmitta without the Beis Hamikdash. That's
yes.
So what's everybody getting all excited about?
We're gonna get okay. We have to see that later in the daf. We do have to see that later in the daf. Yes, we'll get to that. At least a part of that discussion. But anyway, so again, for the top line in the Gemara, it says and whatever it is, michti zmira bechlal zriya. Zmira, right, which is really pruning, is included in zriya. Ubetzira bechlal ketzira. Betzira is just the gathering of grapes. That's included in gathering of grain. So why did the Torah have to write 2 isurim by fields and 2 isurim by vineyards? The Memra Dahani told us these 2 told us you would be chayiv, on others you're not. Meaning the 2 told us of zmira and betzira, that would be considered. Those that have told us you're chayiv on. All other told us you're not chayiv on. Only the things that it says in the Torah. So therefore, plowing and watering are considered told us, and there's no told us of those things by shmitta, right? Only of us. Okay, so we basically have 2 tirutzim why you'd be allowed to plow a field if it's going to have a loss. Either because it's bisman hazeh, we don't keep it. That's the first sheet on the bottom of the Amud, and then there's the chachamim that say that only on Avos melachos are you required to do, and shmita told us you're not. So now the Gemara is going to have a long kasha. It's probably about 15-line kasha, and then there's a bonus because the same 15-line kasha is on the bottom. It's a Daf Yomi learner's dream. This kasha. Okay, you got about 30 lines that are the same. But you have to be Simon's not on, but you have to be a real gardener to understand all this stuff here. Not a gardener. What do you call it?
Farmer?
A farmer, certainly.
Horticulturist.
Horticulturist.
There you go. Okay. Well, I could tell you I'm none of the above. So so we'll try and figure this out. Well,
you're a good customer at Costco, so maybe that counts.
That is true. That is true. I'm a very good shopper. Yes, I'm a very good shopper. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that too in Hilchos Cholamayit about shopping, but not yet. Right? So right? And there's no told us that you're chayiv and shmita vatanya sadcha loy sizra v'karmacha loy sizma. Ein li'ela ziru avazimra. So the passuk is only telling you of planting and pruning. Minayin lenichush uleider ulekisuach. So nichush is weeding. These are all types of weeding, hoeing, etc. These type of things. Talmud Leimer. How do you know you're not allowed to do that? Talmud Leimer sadcha loy karmacha loy. Like we saw on Beis, it says don't do your soda and don't do your vineyard. Loy kol melachos shebesadcha. Don't do any work in your field. Loy kol melachos shebekarmacha, and no work in your vineyard. Minayin shein mekarsimin, vein mezardin, vein mefaskin be'ilan. How do you know that you're not allowed to cut off the mekarsimin? Means to cut off the dry branches. Mezardin is also the type of cutting off branches, right? The Rashi says, I'm sorry, Mizardin Rashi says is the dry branches. Mekarsimin is by tree, it's just cutting down trees. And the faskin,
it's pruning with trees.
Is the extra branches. They're all forms of pruning, right? So how do you know you're not allowed to do that? I don't know why the Gemara just doesn't just put this all into one group and it keeps splitting it up. But either way, it says you can't do any work in your field, you can't do any work in your vineyard. How do you know that you're not allowed to fertilize it and not allowed to take away the stones and dirt, and you're not allowed to smoke the trees? Right, smoking the trees, they would smoke it to get rid of all the what do you call it? Instead of pesticides, it seems. They would smoke it and that would kill all the bugs and whatever it is. Right? The same, it's the same drasha over and over again. Right? It keeps saying the same thing. Fine. So now you would think that you're not allowed to dig under the olive branches, and to do the same thing under grapes. You can't fill up, there's holes around the trees. You want to fill them up with water, and you can't make holes around the grapevines in order to put water in it. You shouldn't plant. It says Riya as a rule. So then why did the Torah say Zriya? Why didn't you just say don't do anything in the field? Why did it specifically say Zriya? To make a hekesh. Planting applies for both a field and a vineyard. Only things that can work that apply to both a field and a vineyard. But the whole last thing with basically the digging the holes, right? Those are not in a field and a vineyard, so therefore those are going to be allowed. Whatever it is, you see from this whole thing that there's many melachos that are not allowed during shmitta, not just the others. There's many told us. So the Gemara says midirabanan across asmachta ba'alma. Yeah, this is all also midirabanan, but the passuk is an asmachta ba'alma, right? So therefore, yes, midiraisa it's mutter, midirabanan it's assur, but in a case of loss, it's going to be mutter, right? In a case of loss, we're going to allow it.
This price is stama a steer to our Mishnah. This price says that you're allowed to oisa ugyas legefanim. Our Mishnah said you're not. Even besides for the rest of it, that told us it's arguing with our Mishnah anyway.
Why?
Our Mishnah says ve'ein oisin ugyas legefanis. This price just said that you're allowed to, because it only applies to vineyards, not to sabras.
Yeah, but I think this is shmitta. The Mishnah is talking about. Oh, is the Mishnah talking about?
Mishnah's talking about.
I know, but it's going on the whole Mishnah when it says shmitta, or that was just the beginning?
It says lo yasa ugyas legefanis. What are you saying?
In our Mishnah, it says ein oisin.
The Mishnah says here, yeah.
So here it says
here it says
lo yasa ugyas legefanim.
Yeah, but that's after Yachal. Yachal lo yikashke shtachas hazeiz v'lo yadu dachas gefanim v'lo yamal v'nikon v'mayim v'lo yasa ugyas legefanim. Talmud loymar, Sad Kali Sizra, you're allowed to.
Okay, so first of all, it could be it's being chaylik on our Mishnah.
Then what's the kasha? So we have a machlokes. So we're asking a kasha from here that told us they're assur.
Right.
So there's a machlokes. Fine, it's not a kasha.
So I was learning it that the Mishnah, the rest of the part would not be referring to ve'ein oisin ugyas legefanim is only going on Chol Moed. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, you got to look at the Rishonim there. Yeah, they say that one is not going on that line is on that, and the one before is only going on shmitta on Chol Moed, not shmitta. Could be probably for the reason that you're saying. I don't remember. What?
According to the Tanakhama, the Belazar seems to be saying not like that.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So okay, so let's see. So so now we're saying it's midirabanan across maftabam. The kishvish is mishari and is hoeing, meaning digging under the trees on shmita allowed. Shvius is going to do shmitta. Unatashta tishmetena milakashkesh unatashta milasakel. It shouldn't. You should not do hoeing, and you should not take out stones from the ground to make everything smooth. So you see that kishkush is assur, and we just said kishkush is mutter. So trei kishkush havana. There's two types of kishkush. Chad abruye ilane, v'chad stume ilane. One is to make the tree stronger. That you're not allowed to do, right? V'chad stume pili, and one is to just fill up the cracks. Abruye ilan is assur, right? Because that's making the trees better. Stume pili shari, but to cover up the cracks, that's going to be mutter. Okay, so so that comes out that again by shmita you're only allowed to do things that are going to cause a loss. You're not allowed to do things that are going to cause that you're going to make things better. There's an interesting Machlokes, and Simon actually sent me the sefer on shmita. And for some reason, my kids, whenever we get Amazon packages on Shabbos, know that they're allowed to open them. And this one, they didn't open. Okay, so I guess it was addressed to Harav Hagoyin Hatzadik Tziyakov Stein. So they knew, okay, can't possibly be anything interesting in this box. So, so they didn't open it, but it's a sefer on shmita that I meant to look at. But there's an interesting Machlokes. How do you define a loss on shmita? Is a loss of the fruit or is a loss of the tree? Right? Meaning, is it just that fruit? I mean, that's what's going to happen a lot of times to fruits. They're going to go bad. But if that particular fruit will go bad, do you allow it? Or does it have to be the tree that's going to get ruined? I mean, the tree, according to all opinions, that's for sure you're allowed to do improvements because you're not mechuyev to lose a tree forever. Right? The shaila is just fruit. Right? If you have fruit hanging on a tree and if you don't do something, that fruit's going to get ruined. Is that the intention of what should happen on Shvius or not? Right? But anyway, so that's
fruit that has kedusha shvius in it.
You can eat the fruit. It's hefker. You can eat the fruit, but what happens if the guy's fruits are going to get ruined unless he does something to the fruit?
Where's
that?
What about baltashkis?
Well, it's not it's baltashkis if you're going to actively destroy it. Here, it's going to get destroyed on its own. The question is, can you be proactive to?
But you could save it if you're not active and saving it. It's baltashkis.
I don't know if it's baltashkis.
It's not yours. Naturally. It's not yours.
Or it's hefker.
It's hefker. So ma'achatesim that you could work the field to save a hefker product from being going bad. That's a good question, but right. No specific person will be over baltashkas.
Yeah, I if it's happening naturally, I think it's not baltashkas. But anyway, fine. So anyway, supposedly in the sefer that he sent, he brings all the machlokes in. So it's interesting, with the mechira, right? Let's start. We got to do the controversy of the heter mechira at least, but we can't let it pass by without discussing it, right? So Rav Kook is known to be mater the heter mechira, and the Chazon Ish is known to assur the heter mechira, right? We know that the Chazon Ish was not pro selling the land, right? So first of all, Rav Kook supposedly it wasn't even Rav Kook. It was the rabbanim and Yafo before Rav Kook, and Rav Kook just took over the city, so he continued it, right? But b'shas atchak. But then he said it on Friday when I was what's it called? One of the dafyim. I can't remember. One of the Rabbi, I forget. Rosner said, Rabbi Rosner quoted the sefer that Simon sent me. He had quoted the sefer that Simon sent me, and he had said that in Hilchos Shmita. Again, I didn't look at it yet, but I will look later. In Hilchos Shmita, Rav Kook is machmer on everything, and the Chazon Ish is mekel on everything. Right? That's what comes out. So he was saying, I don't know if he was saying it tongue in cheek. He was saying maybe that's what Rav Kook needed to have the mechira, because he was being machmer on every shaila. So the only way to get the fruits was to do the heter mechira. Mashaying the Chazon Ish was mekel. He said the Chazon Ish on this fruit thing allowed you to do malacha on the field if the fruit would get destroyed. Rav Kook held not. Right? And I can't remember now where Rav Shlomo Zalman. Okay, well, I meant to look at the sefer before. I'm sorry.
But anyway, the mechira started. Heter mechira.
But what about it from when?
The heter mechira started from Rav Shlomo Kluger. Was
he was the first one?
Of Cook. Yeah, as far as I remember.
I hear.
What's the nafkamina between the heter mechira and the mechira chametz?
Oh, now you're right. So there's one big issue is you're not allowed to sell land in Eretz Yisrael to a guy. That's one of the issues. The other issue is by chametz. Well, that plays into this stuff too. Is lamaisa shmitta nowadays a rabbanan or deraisa? So chametz, you're really selling the chametz to the rabbanan. It's not a deraisa. People think it's deraisa. It's really the rabbanan. The shaila is in shmita. Is it a deraisa rabbanan? Pashtus, it's a rabbanan nowadays, right? Like we were saying. But that's one of the big issues: selling land to goyim. But anyway, yeah, fine.
But what does that have to do with the fruits? Because that has to do with the farmer, because the farmer shouldn't be doing that. But what does that have to do with the fruits that people are machmir that they won't eat het mechira?
No, because the ones that do het mechira is sell it to a guy, and then the land belongs to a guy. So then you're allowed to do all the work you want on the field.
I understand that, but there are people that are machmir in Eretz Yisrael. They're machmir not to go ahead and eat fruit from a land that's het mechira. But the issue is by the farmer who sells the land to the guy, who rents it, whatever you do. He said, but it's not a din in the fruit; it's a din in the land. He shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, but if you hold that the mechira is not chal because you can't sell Eretz Yisrael to a guy.
Right. So then he's doing right.
I didn't understand. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah.
And he didn't even yell at me when he said it. He just explained it. Aaron, you okay?
He's going to Eretz Yisrael tomorrow.
I'm afraid some of your family's in your house. I want to know.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, right. Fine. Anyway, so those are some of the things. So we continue. So somebody who plows in shmitta. So one says you not only is it also you actually get malkos, right? And one says you don't get malkos. So maybe they're having an argument in Rav Avin in the Shem of Rabbi Loi. So now, but we need a little bit of hakdama. There's something called, for those of us that say, I don't want to bring up a sore topic, for those of us that say karbonis, okay? So after karbonis, there's this thing that's called the Yud Gimel Midas from Rabbi Yishmael, right? Which enables you to say a Kaddish. Fine. So one of those, there's klalu pradu klal, then there's klalu prat, right? So klalu pradu klal has one set of rules, and klalu prat has another set of rules. So Rabbi Loi has a shita that calls makam shenemar klal ba'asei. Normally the klals are do this, and then there's a prat, do it specifically in this situation, and then there's another klal. That's usually the way it is, and they're all either aseis or lois aseis. Here, it's an asei, and then the prat is a lois aseh, and then the klal again. See, Rashi says it here. The Rashi called Malkos shenemar klal ba'asei uprat b'lois. It's in the Rashi a few lines down. It's about, I would say, 15 lines up from the bottom. It's just Kigoin hachat dichsev ubashana hashviyas shabbos shabboson yeloretz. That's a mitzvah asay. On the 7th year, the land should rest. That's a klal. Hainu asay, and it's an asay. Sadcha lois sizra v'charmacha lois sizmar. That's a prat. Means it says let it rest, but then it says specifically what you're not allowed to do, which is said as a lois asay, right? Don't plow and don't prune. And prat, and then it's a lois aseh, right? So one's an aseh, one's a lois aseh. So then continuing in the Rashi, ain't done an aseh b'chlalu prat klal. That does not get judged as a klal prat klal. V'afagav the siv klal basrei, even though it says a klal after going hachad the siv basrei shabbos shabboson, says it again, just rest. That's an aseh. Climber ain't loydin the shar klal prat uklal. It does not have the regular rules. Sheksuv and kulan ba'aseh I belav. Okay, we don't have to do any more of the Rashi, but whatever it is, this is a klal uprado klal, but it's a klal with an aseh and a prat with a lois aseh. Again, the klal says rest your land. The prat says no planting and no pruning, and then it says another klal, right? So ain done an aseh b'klal uprado klal. You don't learn it as a klal uprado klal. So. And memela, it only klal prat is ein bechlal elamasha beprat. You only what specifically a klal prat is only what's in the actual prat. That's the only thing that's also klal prat or klal means anything that's similar would be also. So he's saying Rabbi Loi that if it says an asay and a lois asay, then it's not your classic klal prat or klal. Mandam are like a less later rabbanim. So the one that says malkos says we don't hold the rabbanim because plowing is not one of those. The rabbanim are Rabbi Lo. Mandam ain't it like a islay the rabbanim. The one that says you don't get malkos holds the rabbanin's din, and therefore it's not included in the assur. So the Gemara answers like the kuli ama less like the rabbanim are like everybody doesn't hold the rabbanim like mandam are like a shaper. So the one that says you get malkos, it's shaper because it's a klal or product klal, and anything similar to planting is assur. Mandam are like amalach michtis mira bechlal zriya ubetzira bechlal ketzira. Right, pruning is included in planting. And betzira, gathering grapes, is included in ketzira. Why did the Torah have to write specifically by grapevines when it's really included in fields? The Meimer, the Hani told us who the Mechayev. I told the Achrim, the Mechayev. You're only Chayev on these told us, and not on any other told us. Meaning, so only plowing is the only told that you'd be Chayev on. So now it's a repeat of the exact kasha that was above. Again, the Gemara is now saying that the only tolda of work on the field that you're chayiv for is plowing. So our Gemara is going to go through all the scenarios again and prove that there's many more toldas that are also on shmitta. Beloy, Batanya, Sadchaloi Sizr, Karmachaloi Sizmor, Ainli Alazirua Bezimor. That only tells you planting and pruning. Right? Those are all different types of pruning. Tamalar Sadchaloi, Karmachaloi. No malacha that's done in the field, and no malacha that's done in the vineyard. And how do you know you can't do any of these? These are all also some types of pruning. Any malacha that's in your field you don't do. And all the malacha that's in your vineyard you don't do. These are all ways of improving, right? It's the zevel is you're putting manure, and mashnin is to smoke it, and mefarkin is take out to remove sediment and stones and all that. Fine. You think you can't hoe under the olive trees, and not do it under the grapevines, and not fill up the holes with water. I'm assuming the island remembers this from the top of the Amud, so you can read it a little faster, right? Right. Zriya was included, and why was it specified? To compare everything to it. Just like planting, it's only things that apply to both a field and a vineyard. So too, things that are avoided in the southern and kerem, so whatever it is, you see that there's all sorts of things that are also to do during shmitta. So Gemara says, when the rabbanon, the cross asmachta ba'alma. So the rabbanon and the passuk is again an asmachta ba'alma. Right. So really, these things are mutter. Yeah, on top of Beis now. Yeah.
I just thought because of this Rabbi Rabbi Lo, what is this sadchalei sizra zriya bechlal hoisa?
What?
That's really a klal ופרט.
Right, it is.
We just said you can't. So this is the proof that this brisa doesn't hold like rabbanim.
I was wondering that, but I think it's not really being used as a regular standard klal ופרט.
Well, Yotzis Lahakish is not a klal ופרט. It's one of the other Yud Gimel Taka.
Yeah, I think. Well, if you count
one
exactly,
of the other Yud Gimel.
I don't know how you go with hekish. I have no idea. I don't say it every day. What should I tell you? Okay. Anyways, okay. On to the Beis. So Kiyasa Rav Dimi Omar Yochel Yukal. So he's now the Rav Dimi comes and says this vague statement, and we're going to try and figure out what exactly it meant. Kiyasa Rav Dimi Omar Yochel Yukal Tesefes. You would think that you would get malkos on adding things, and the Torah says that you're potter. Okay, a cryptic line. I don't know what the Gemara meant by Talmuda and what it meant by adding on. So it's two pshatim. And what it's referring to is plowing. You would think you should get malkos on plowing because it gets included, because klal uprat or klal, right? We know that anything similar to the prat is going to be included, right? So really, you should be chayiv, and the Gemara says, no, you're potter. The imkain kol hani prati lamli, because that you would get malkos, then why do you need all these things, these pratim of what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do? They should all be included in malkos, right? So therefore, only things that the Torah says, the Ferish, you get malkos, and nothing else, right? That's the way Rebbe Elazar learns that statement of Tesefes, and then the Gemara says it's potter. This is referring to the days that the Chachamim added on before Rosh Hashanah, right? And we discussed this a couple of times. I think it was in Rosh Hashanah. Where was it? I don't remember. Eremin, maybe. I don't know. That shmitta starts before, just like Shabbos, you add on to Shabbos, and Yom Kippur, you add on to Yom Kippur, and Yom Tov, you're supposed to add on. So shmitta also we add on. So this is referring to the days that the Chachamim added on before Rosh Hashanah. This is what it means to say. Yachal Yilkal Tesefes Rosh Hashanah. You would think you get malkos if you work the land before Rosh Hashanah. You're going to get malkos for plowing and for gathering. And then the Gemara says, no, you're not chayiv. You're not allowed to use the land before shmitta, but you're not going to be chayiv on it. Come on, like we were about to say. Okay, so my yom Rosh Hashanah. What exactly are these days before Rosh Hashanah? How long before Rosh Hashanah does shmitta kick in? By the way, this doesn't apply. It was only bisman of Ikdash that this applied. After the Churban, this does not apply. Yeah. So my yom Rosh Hashanah. What does it mean the days before Rosh Hashanah? Until when can you plow a field of trees and shmita? As long as it's going to be nice for the pri, as long as when you plow, it's going to make the peiros better. That's when you have to stop. Until Shavuos, you're allowed to plow to Shavuos, and that's it. And they're both saying their words are very similar to each other, meaning both times are considered pretty close to Shavuos, right? So Tosfos points out that Beis Shamai is always the machmer, right? So it must be that it's going to be a little bit, Beis Shamai is going to be a little bit before Shavuos, right? Because he's always the machmer one. Beis Hillel says you have up until Shavuos. So it must be Beis Shamai is going to assur even a little bit before Shavuos. Okay. That's for a field of trees. What about a field for grain? Erev Shvius, right? And on Erev Shvius, when can you stop? When the moisture goes away. Once the moisture goes away, meaning it rains over the winter, and then the fields are very very moist, and then it goes away. So then once it goes away, you have to stop working the field. And whenever the people are still planting gourds and cucumbers and gourds. So if you're saying that until people plant cucumbers and gourds, he doesn't like that. Then you're not having a uniform zman when people have to stop working the field, because Ruvain may stop in May 1st, and Ruvain may stop on May 15th. So there's going to be no uniform time when people are stopping to do work before Shemitah. So Shimon says, we never like to make halachas based on shiurim for individuals. We try and lump everybody into one big.
In Shabbos we have everything has its own shiur for Hitzah.
Right, but it applies to everybody.
But it doesn't apply to every item.
Right, but the items is fine. We don't mind saying different items of different shiurim, but we don't want to say different people have different shiurim. It's a little bit in our halacha atmosphere. Bisman hazeh, it's a little tough when you got some people doing malacha at 35, some at 42, some at 50, some at 72, some at 90. And now we're a disaster. But right, but according to all of those opinions, really tzeis. You have to keep Shabbos till tzeis. Right? It's just a matter of what your tzeis is. But we try and keep everything. Well, you see, Taka, it's a disaster. You do see it's a disaster when it's not, when you start giving, oh yeah, I don't keep that, I do this. My rabbi says this, and then whatever, right? So
I think Kmitza is the only subjective shear.
because it's based on the and
Based
the
on the
Gemara
Kohen.
asks on it. The Gemara asks on it, I think.
Yeah, the Gemara said why. The Gemara says
Right.
that Gemara. Yeah,
Right,
it's
yeah.
specific to Kmitza.
Right. It's it. Like tonight, the lights were off in the Shifra with this marriage the whole day today, right? And then for Ma'ariv, they went on, even though Ma'ariv's at 60, but somebody who keeps 50 turned on the lights. So of course they're making a tumult. Oh, can we use the lights? Can we not use it? Just relax. You know what I mean? We're keeping 72 as a chumrah. I'm saying it makes a tumult. That's what the Gemara is basically saying. We don't want to make it that, oh, this one can plan till then, and then so the Shimon doesn't like it. Ella, what are you saying?
Okay, but you're saying it's everybody, so fine. But
Yeah.
you see later on, I mean, I don't know if it's Moed Katan, and the Mishnah is Eretz Yisrael is divided into 3 places, right? You go and there's 3 different places, and it depends on which fruit. If you do pickled squash, it's different than pickled pickles.
Okay.
And it's different, and the 3 parts of Eretz Yisrael, they have 3 different hagim for everything.
Yeah, but that everybody would have to keep the same if they all pickle. I think each individual is not going to have their own shear. I mean, I guess if you did a better job pickling, so maybe it will last you longer. I hear. I don't know. I hear. Okay, so let's see. So what's his opinion? Reb Shimon Ela Besada Alavan Ada Pesach on a regular grain field, it's till Pesach. Ubesada Ilan Ada Tzeres, and a tree is till Shavuos. Right? V'amar Rav Shimon ben Pazi. We'll skip the parentheses. V'amar Rav Shimon ben Pazi. Amar Rav Yishuv ben Levi. Shum Bakafer Rav Gamliel Beis Dinoi Nimnu Al Shnei Prokam Alalu Ubitlu. Yeah. So Reb Gamliel and his bezdin, not Reb Shimon Gamliel, right? He was Rebbe's son. They made a vote on these times, and they were mevatel them, and they held that you're allowed to plow to Rosh Hashana. Hence, nobody ever heard of this halacha, right? Because they took it and they eliminated it. So now, of course, what's the obvious question? How can he go and be mevatel at takana b'sham v'Hillel? Well, Tanan, we know this rule. Ain't bezdin. This is especially parrots for today, for a haftarah that's so long. We don't really need to keep haftarah anymore because Baruch Hashem we have kriyas haftarah, but we keep it anyways. And today was something. But I have to say, in parrots' show, they did the Sfardim minute. So I was told. I was wondering. I was in the kitchen. I was like, how did they finish haftarah so fast? What?
We tried to get away with it.
Oh, you tried. You didn't end up doing it?
No.
Okay. I thought they said you did. But either way, the bottom line is we got to keep haftarah because we got to keep it. That's the way it was. A new bezdin can't eliminate it, even though the reason for the haftarah.
One of your brothers now wears a geflochten, a talis, and a gartel, so he didn't let.
Why not? They gave him longer time to make kiddush in the kitchen. Okay, anyway. So, but Tanan ain't bezdin yochel levatel divrei bezdin chavei, right? One bezdin is not allowed to be mevatel the words of another bezdin. Elam ken gadol mimenu b'chacham minyan, unless it's bigger than them in the count in being smart. And in minyan is a minyan can either mean the amount of people or minyan could be meaning age, whatever it is. Rabbi Gamliel was not bigger than Beis Shammai v'His Hillel. So how did he eliminate this halacha? Again, it's saying that Rabbi Gamliel came along and said you're allowed to plow up until Rosh Hashanah, and he nixed Beis Shammai v'His Hillel. So how was he allowed to do that? So ishtoimim kishachada. So he was nishtoimim, means he was like frozen. That's not the literal translation. He was quiet or whatever it is for an hour. Amrlei Eimer kach kisnu beinei, and maybe we have to say that Beis Shammai v'His Hillel, when they made the takana, they made a tanai, which was kol haroitze levatel yava v'yavatel. They put a little bit of asterisk in their gezeira, and they said, by the way, if anybody wants to be mevatel this halacha that you have to stop plowing from Shavuos before shmitta, you're allowed to, right? So meaning Taisus says what it meant is that for whatever reason, agriculturally, if the rabbis decide, I guess based on whatever's going on, then that this is going to really ruin the fields, then they're allowed to eliminate it. Okay, which is interesting because it seems to be he said this al pi svara. He didn't have any facts that he knew that Beis Shammai v'His Hillel put into the gezerah. That by the way, if you want to eliminate it, you could eliminate it. So the Gemara says, Dituhi. Now they want to ask, is it really theirs? Meaning the shamai is Hillel, the ones that made this gezerah that you have to stop before shmita. Halach l'Moshe Sinai. It's really halach l'Moshe Sinai. Domer Rav Asi, Yomer Rav Yochanan, Mishum Rav Nechunya, Ish Barkas, Beis Charson, Ish Barkas. The Beis Charson. We had this a few times. Beis Charson, right? Is what do you call it? No, Beis Charson is a place, right? I'm sorry, Bakas, that is his name. Rav Nechunya Ish Barkas Beis Charson. Yeah. Assur Natiyas, 10 plantings, which means if there's a field that's has a base saw, which is 50 amas by 50 amas, and in that field there's 10 trees, and those trees are going to get damaged, so then you're allowed to plant, you're allowed to do whatever you need to do even before Rosh Hashana of shmitta. Arava, and then Arava is Menitza Chamayim, Halach l'Moshe Messina, right? Arava is Hashana Rava, and Nisa Chamayim, the pouring of the water on Chol HaMoed, because that's all Halach l'Moshe Messina. So Assur Natiyas means that there was a heter that if there's 10 trees that are in a field and they're going to get ruined, so then you don't have to keep the pre-shmita halacha. But you see that it's halach l'Moshe Sinai that you have to keep shmita before the year, not Pesham is Hillel. So Rabbi Yitzchak, ki gemiri hilchos shloishim yom lefnei Rosh Hashana. The halach l'Moshe Sinai is telling it to you from Elul. From Elul, you have to not keep shmita for 30 days. V'asu hani tikun mipesach me'atzeres. Came along Pesham is Hillel, and they said it's from Pesach and Atzeres. The isnu, but they do, and they made a tonight that kol haroitz levato yav levato. So from Elul, that's halach l'Moshe Sinai. Bishar Yisrael added it from Shavuos, and they said if anybody wants to nix our chumrah can. So the Gemara asked, "V'ani hilchos ninu, kroi ninu," and these are halach l'Moshe Sinai, right? Meaning from Elul, it's really psukim. The Tanan b'charash u'b'katzer tishbos. Right, you should rest from plowing and gathering. It doesn't need to say that when it says you should rest from plowing, it's talking about shmita. So what is passuk coming to tell you? It's coming to tell you plowing and erev shvius. Shenichnas l'shvius of the year going into shmita. The katzer shel shvius, sheyatzel l'matzeh shvius, and it's the katsir shel shvius that's going to matzeh shvius. Just like plowing is rishus, af katzir rishus, so too katzir is a rishus. Yatzik katzira aimer shehi mitzvah. That comes to exclude the katzira aimer, right? The aimer is right. You have to cut the carbon aimer second day Pesach. So the passuk's telling you that you're even allowed to cut it on Shabbos, right? Whatever it is, you see that it's psukim beferish that say you have to keep shmita before shmita. Right, so not halach l'Moshe Sinai. So it says yalda. It's coming to include. It's coming to allow a yalda as a young tree. Right, that's where it's allowed. Kroi lemesa zakena, and the passuk is telling you that an old tree is also the kiva the hilchasa lemishri yalda. Right, but once the Torah the doesn't that tell you that an old tree is assur? Again, we're trying to differentiate now between old trees and young trees. So the Gemara is saying, well, if you're telling me that young tree, you're allowed to plow before, you're allowed to plant before shmita, so that tells you the old tree you can't. So what comes out, it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai according to Rabbi Shmuel, and it's psukim according to Rabbi Kiva. Right? Yeah, so that's basically, okay, let's just go to the two dots because it's one long Gemara. It didn't take us that long anyways. So again, now we're making this a Machlokes. Rabbi Shmuel holds that the reason that you have to keep shmita before, that's based on psukim, and Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Kiva holds that it's, Rabbi Shmuel says halach l'Moshe Sinai, and Rabbi Kiva says it's psukim. Okay, now Rabbi Yochanan Amud says a different teretz. How were they able to be mevatel b'shamim is Hillel's din? Rabbi Gamliel beistina midirabanan batalahu, right? They were mevatel it midirabanan. My timer gomer Shabbos mishabbos bereishis, because they learned out exera shav of Shabbos from Shabbos bereishis, meaning the first Shabbos of the year of the world. By Shabbos, but it means every Shabbos. Shabbos is assur, lefanei ulacharei mutarin, right? Obviously, before Shabbos, Friday melachos mutar, Sunday melachos mutar. Afkan hi asura, shmitta is assur, lefanei ulacharei mutarin, but before shmitta and after shmitta is mutar. So this is an interesting thing. Rabbi Gamliel came along and said he has a gzeira shava that nixes Beis Shamai and Beis Hillel's din, right? So, but right, you see what he's saying? Well, or we have Rabbi Kiva who says that is a passuk that tells you that it's assur, or Rabbi Shmuel says Allah l'maishem Messina. And came along Rabbi Gamliel and he said we have a gzeira shava that doesn't apply. So 1 second. So you're saying your gzeira shava that you seemingly made up is going to eliminate halacha l'maishem Messina or a passuk? So the Gemara asks, Mazgul Ravashi Mandam Hilchasa Asi Gzeira Shava Akra Hilchasa. You're saying that a Gzeira Shava is going to come be Aikar Halacha L'Moshe Messina, meaning your Gzeira Shava. Umandam Rakra Asi Gzeira Shava Akra Kra. You're going to have a Gzeira Shava that's going to be Aikar a pasuk. How can that possibly be? How can you say that Gamliel came up with a Gzeira Shava that tells you that shmitta is only during shmitta and not before and not after? So Ravashi Rabbi Gamliel Beistina Savi look Rabbi Shmuel. They Rabbi Gamliel held like Rabbi Shmuel, the Amar Hilchos of Gemiri law that it's halacha l'Moshe Messina. Gemiri Hilchos of Bezman sheBeis Hamikdash Kayim, and when the halacha l'Moshe Messina applied, that's when the Beis Hamikdash was around. Dumi the Nisa Chamayim, like same thing, right? We had the Simchas Beis Hasheva. That only applies when there was a Beis Hamikdash, obviously. So therefore, this halacha of before shmita, you have to keep shmita. That's only Bezman Beis Hamikdash. Bezman she'ein Beis Hamikdash Kayim, like, but when there's no Beis Hamikdash, then you don't have to keep the shmita before, which is what we said, that this halacha, that you have to keep shmita before leading up to shmita, that was only Bisman Beis Hamikdash. Not Bisman Beis Hamikdash, it's not a problem, even though Beis Shammai Beis Hillel said yes. Rabbi Gamliel came and nixed it based on his Gzeira Shava, that was only Bisman Beis Hamikdash. How that worked exactly is still a complicated thing. Okay, we'll stop here. Now we're done with shmita. We go back to Chalamaya tomorrow. All right.
Yaakov.
Yes, sir.
You said Hekesh is not one of the Yud Gimel. It's not one of the Yud Gimel midos from Rabbi Shmuel. Hekesh is not in there.
Hekesh is not. It's not there under a different name.
No. Mean like Gzeira Shava or something like that.
It's not Gzeira Shava.
No, I know it's not Gzeira Shava.
No, I'm saying, what would it be under? Let me get a set. Maybe it's not. I told you don't say it.
Yeah.
You say this or try it?
Yeah, I say it. That's why I was
wow, that's pretty impressive.
I only say it on Shabbos because that's when I have time to.
Oh, no, that's good.
I say now.
Binyan, is it included in Binyan Av? No.
No, Hekesh is two.
No, it's not a binyan av.
Like.
Not a davar alam minyoni, davar alam misayfai.
No, it's not. Hekesh is not one of the Rikir Bishmals.
Okay, so then that makes so then that makes sense of what you were saying before. No?
The Hekesh anyone can make.
Hekesh is two words that are from two different pasukim that are telling you a particular din, or you learn out something that way.
Right. I hear. So then it's not okay. So why is it not a klal prat? Why wasn't this a klal prat? I don't know.
But it's a klal prat in what the Gemara was calling originally a prat. The Rabbanim of Rabbi Hillel was calling that just the prat. The klal was Shabbos. What's it? Shabbos in Yela Aretz. Shabbos Hashem. Sadcha Le'Sizra was the prat, and now he's saying it should have just said Sadcha Loi. Why did it say Sizra? I'm not quite sure what the passuk should have said. It should have said nothing. I mean, the Gemara really could have answered this kasha to give it a lav. Otherwise, it was just an assay.
Right. Are you asking me? I have no idea when
Are you-
I don't know anything about drushes.
One sec, are you also saying that a cloud prot always have to be assays, not, they can't be? an
Seems like
assay?
according to Rabbi Lloyd, they either all have to be assays or all lois assays. Not you can't mix
Or
them up.
neither, or just halachas. All of Nazikin is full of what's it called? Yisro Mishpatim. 2 weeks time, the parsha is full of klal prat clouds. There's no assays or lois assays bechlal. Just klal prats. What you have to pay for, what you pay with, how do you pay? All of that is klal prat clouds. The whole Bava Kama, malkos, is in Mishpatim.
Right.
Okay, good to know.
All right. Gotta get on for the ladies. All right. Good to walk.
Yashikayach. Yashikayach.